recent news, the film Johnny English Returns was released. It featured Rowan Atkinson, a very prominent English comedic actor. We may also know him as Inspector Raymond Fowler in The Thin Blue Line. More importantly, he's better known for his comedic acts as the strange, dumb, rubbery man in Mr. Bean. From the recent release of his latest film in the Johnny English series, the New York Times wrote up an article or interview about Rowan Atkinson on the present, the past, and his opinions on some current matters. The article is titled, "For Rowan Atkinson, Comedy Isn't Always a Laughing Matter." During that interview, the interviewer asked some questions about comedy, his line of work, the industry that he is in, and his opinions on a recent matter that impacted comedy and comedians all around. What really is eye-catching and is a very important matter is the last question. The interviewer asked, "In August, you defended Boris Johnson, Britain's former foreign secretary, after he wrote that women who wear burqas look like bank robbers and letterboxes. Were you serious?" This question and answer brings a larger topic into discussion. It really makes us think about what is comedy, its purpose, its meaning. What place does it have in modern society, if any at all? Other questions could also arise. You could ask is like comedy's boundaries. Or does comedy even have any boundaries at all? In order to begin to answer these questions, one must find out about comedy and her origins and its true meaning. For this, we look to the book An Essay on Comedy by George Meredith, Henry Bergenson, and Willie Seifert. This book is about comedy, as the name implies. In part 2 of the book, it begins to give us a philosophical, yet concrete image and definition of what comedy really is. It states, "Our excuse for attacking the problem, in our turn, must lie up the fact that we shall not aim at imprisoning the comic spirit within a definition. We regard it above all as a living thing. However trivial it may be, we shall treat it with the respect due to life." Chapter 1, page 61. For the comic spirit has a logic of its own. Even if in its wild eccentricities, it has a method to its madness. It dreams, I admit, but it conjures up in its dreams visions that are at once accepted and understood by the whole of a social group. Chapter 1, page 62. We must see comedy as a living thing. At the same time, we cannot confine it to any guidelines, like certain ethics or socially acceptable norms. For all the insanities and crazy thinking and comedy schemes that it pulls, that there is a method to it at all as well. The book also mentioned that comedy is this being, kind of like a third person to everything. Just imagine this. So imagine that you detach yourself from everything in this materialistic world. After you do that, you take a step to the side. Sort of like you're taking it from a godly view. Sort of like you're looking over God's shoulder amongst the rest of the world. And truly, and only then will you ever be able to stand comedy. So at that point, you can just laugh at everything. Now that we have established what comedy is, we can now look to real-life examples. Like in the latest installment of the Johnny English trilogy. The next couple of scenes was taken directly from the trailer and clips from the previous Johnny English movies. In these scenes, we see the Johnny English fire a shot of tear gas at a group of French cyclists. English and his assistant Buff make it very clear that they are French cyclists. Rowan Atkinson in this clip played it off in a very hilarious manner, but if not for his acting and screenplay, it could have all been taken the wrong way. Someone could have taken it as discrimination from English to French people, or bikers, or even both at the same time. Though we don't think of it that way. This is due to screenplay and how Rowan Atkinson pulls it off. What we know of the actor. we also know that, for all else, that it is a comedic scene, so everything is in good fun and in a comedic way. A second scene that also might have been controversial would have been the scene where he is reunited with his old assistant from previous movies. The reunion is some sort of weird. By that I mean that in the scene, Rowan Atkinson or Johnny English hinting at something homosexual or gay. The buttons get stuck, and the scene hinted at some sort of gay or homosexual, or that when they were hugging too long or too hard. But it is played off in a comedic manner once again. We laugh and see it as funny because it is an awkward moment. It is a moment that most of us would encounter. It's an awkward moment that everyone would understand. The scene or characters didn't intend for it to be homosexual. It just so happened to be part of the story. Well, obviously in the screenplay and everything was intended, but played off as accidental. Even though it touches upon a controversial matter, I would have thought that someone would have called it out as making fun of or poking fun at the LGBTQ plus community, but it really isn't, since as I said before, it is a comedic film, so everything is taken with a grain of humor. Or even if we look back at another one of his movies where Johnny English is being chased by baddies. He outruns them via a stolen super wheelchair. But we will never see him or the scene poking fun at disabled people or discriminating against them. Rather, we find it quite funny that with his wits and dumbfounded character outruns the baddies in cars on a wheelchair. We will never find any of his comedy or comedy in general controversial. Or do we? 2 years ago, a man known as Mr. Michan posted on the internet a video of his dog doing the Hail Hitler stance. In the video, he claimed to have done it out of spite to annoy his girlfriend. The story here is that Michan found that his girlfriend was always saying how cute and adorable their pet pug was. So he thought of, what would be the least adorable act that the dog could do? So he taught the dog to hold his paw up as if he's doing the Hail Hitler. When this was achieved, he made a video with a bunch of edits and scenes of Hitler in the background and blah 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 to make it look like a dog was a Nazi sympathizer. But it wasn't. Most people found it hilarious on the internet because, you know, the dog, it's so adorable, cute thing is being the complete opposite of what it was made to do. But although the dog doesn't know what it is doing, Michan was only doing it to get a laugh and to annoy his girlfriend. The way the video was made also was quite hilarious. We all know that the Nazis did was terrible. It was beyond anybody could ever imagine. There's no denying that. But it is quite funny when something else does it. And it's just hilarious when, especially when another human is doing, when another inanimate object is doing it. The point is to get laughter and to poke fun at a really dark time in human history. Animals doing human things are already funny, but when it is doing horrible human things, I would think it's even funnier. The funny part is that we know what the acts mean and relate to, but the dog or animal doesn't know. The animal is just doing it for a treat. It's doing what it was trained to do. So as a part of the definition of comedy, we laugh when we see human aspect in other things or animals. This case exemplifies that. We saw a Nazi-like person or act in the pug and laughed at it. We laugh at the sudden change, or in this case, the opposite of what we expect. Or when the thing doesn't have a clue on what it is doing, the dog is so dumbfounded.
To tie it all in, I think we have to look back at the article or interview that the New York Times had done up on Rowan Atkinson. Rowan Atkinson here is referring to how modern society has put on a new definition for free speech. We say, what he means, and I mean too, is that we have put on new definition of what is good and bad free speech. We dictate what is acceptable and what is not. We say what is acceptable to be said and what we can or cannot find funny. In these cases, we don't hold on to our ideologies, morals, but mainly emotions when it comes to comedy. If we did, then all the parrots, cats, and dogs and videos on YouTube would no longer incite laughter, would not be funny anymore. We will be too busy holding on to our own emotions and holding on to our own truths to laugh at the plain and simple comedic acts. Out of all these scenes, we do find that these situations or laughing matters could be considered controversial. But from the definition of comedy, we know that there is a madness and there's a method. All this is in a grand scheme plan to get us to laugh. We also know that from Rowan Atkinson himself, that he always finds a way to make it funny. Not the opposite. We know that it isn't meant to be mean, but rather funny and humorous. We know that we don't or cannot hold on to our high moral ethics or emotions when it comes to comedy. If that was the case, comedy, even Rowan Atkinson, would not be funny. At this point, I would like to point out or reference The Amazing Atheist from YouTube. In one particular video, he explains further the purpose of comedy. We may not think much about the purpose of comedy. We just think that it is sometimes something we have fun with and thus incites laughter amongst us all. He says that comedy and humor is used as a weapon against sad and dark times. We use it during hardship to cheer us up. There goes the saying of laughter's the best medicine. Comedy is used so that we laugh at the past and what horrible things that we have done or are doing right now. We make fun of it so that we make light of the situation, so that the situation and problem before us are easier to deal with. When we feel down, people cheer us up with laughter to make us happy again. The ultimate weapon against all other emotions, especially the most evil of them all, which is sadness, grief, dark times, etc. That is why comedy has no emotion, because it fights back all the other emotions. But it is at its most effective at the ones that get us in the depressed moods. All in all, Rowan Atkinson does an amazing job at exercising his powers of comedy, while still within socially acceptable norms. He isn't too rash with his comedy. He doesn't dare push the boundaries that have been now placed upon comedy. But he does keep its spirit strong. His meaning of comedy is that even though it may offend someone, the purpose of it is not to hurt, but instead of laughing at the thing that we want to laugh at. We're not laughing at you, we are laughing with you, thus making you laugh as well, and making everyone in a much more cheerful mood.